Friday, February 1st, 2019, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So Billy is back. He'll probably go to sleep in a few minutes. Today I want to talk about the day the dollar died. And it's actually about this book called The Mandibles. A very interesting book. It's a fiction thriller. It was recommended to me by one of the viewers. That's why I always try to communicate with subscribers and viewers as much as possible. A lot of times I get great tips from subscribers and viewers. I received the book yesterday, and the only reason I put it down is that I had to go to sleep. So I've read about a fifth of it already. And of course I haven't finished it, but I highly recommend it already, this book, especially for my viewers, especially in relation to the topics that we talk about here, about the monetary system, the financial system, the dollar. This is highly recommended. And I'll talk a little bit about it after I look at the markets this morning. And I'll talk a little bit about the author. It's Lionel Shriver. Lionel Shriver. So it's The Mandibles, a Family, 2029, 2047. In God We Trusted. And there's a $100 bill there. So before that, yeah, let's have a look at the markets. It's 7:30 a.m. London. We've seen that, I saw a headline yesterday saying that the stock market had its best January in over 30 years. And we know that it had its worst December since over 80 years. That in of itself shows that there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets on a monthly basis. A lot of times when we see that kind of volatility on a daily basis, it's also a sign of uncertainty and maybe a top or a bottom in the market. I personally think, yeah, this is a warning sign in of itself, actually, the fact that we've had the best month of January in the stock markets in over 30 years. And then in December, we had the worst month in over 80 years for the stock market. So the Dow finished the month just over 7%, S&P 7.7%, NASDAQ 9.2%. So that's what happened in January. Precious metals had a good month as well. Didn't do as well, but gold was up about 3%, I think. I think we closed the year around 1282, and we were at 1320 yesterday. But so what are we doing this morning? Gold and silver are lower this morning. Not surprising, I guess we did in the short term run up a bit, and of course there are those forces out there that keep gold in check. Right now we're at 1316.83. At least we're above 1300 now. Down just under $5. The range has been 1322 through to 1360.60. So we're near the lows here. Silver has been sold off below 16. We're at 1592, down 7/8%. Range has been 1610 to 1590. I noticed yesterday, late in the day, in the afternoon towards the markets closing in the US, that silver was hit hard from around 1720 all the way to around just above 17. So I could see yesterday that there's, after the European close, they were probably trying to get the metals down, and it's not surprising that it's down further this morning. Big number today will be the U.S. job data, the non-farm payrolls, which is actually a survey of hypothetical jobs. I think right now, for the market, the best thing would be weak numbers. And why do I say that? Well, because that will perpetuate the idea now that the Fed is going to be more dovish, and that will help the markets. If we have very strong data that show the economy is doing well according to the government statistics, then we could actually see the market come off, the stock market, so that's coming out at 8:30 New York time, 1:30 p.m. London time. So right now the Dow future is up 60 at 25,066. Up 0.25%. S&P is only up 4 at 2707, and the Nasdaq 100 future is down actually 0.2%. Yesterday, I noticed that the Dow actually finished down on the day 15, while the S&P finished up 23 points, almost 1%. And the Nasdaq finished up 1.37. These they're fairly flat right now. The pound is at 131.10, unchanged. Euro's unchanged, 114.42. The dollar is a little strong against the yen, 108.94. But the dollar is fairly strong against the Chinese currency. It's up 0.5% at 674.70. So yeah, that's that's one currency moving here this morning. The reason for this is some headlines out of China. Here on Zero Hedge, it says more alarm bells as 440 Chinese companies issue profit warnings in one day. So probably that's why the dollar's come back a bit against the yuan. Dollar still, compared to a few weeks, a month ago, fairly weak against the Chinese currency. The oil price, just below 54 WTI crude, virtually unchanged. Bond markets, let's have a look. We got the 10-year yield still relatively low, I would say, 263. So not you would have thought if the stock market had the greatest January in over 30 years, that the 10-year yield would have gone back towards 3%. So that's another warning sign flashing for me. The 1 to 7 spread is around -2. So that curve is still inverted. 1-year T-bill yield to 7-year T-note yield. The mandibles. So yeah, thank you for the viewer and subscriber for recommending this book. Lionel Shriver. Sounds like a man, right? But no, I'll read about the author a little bit. Lionel Shriver is an American journalist and author who lives in the United Kingdom. She's best known for her novel We Need to Talk About Kevin, which won the Orange Prize for Fiction in 2005 and was adopted into the 2011 film of the same name, starring Tilda Swinton. What about the name? Well, I read here, I was curious. Shriver was born Margaret Ann Shriver on May 18th, 1957 in Gastonia, North Carolina, to a deeply religious family. Her father is a Presbyterian minister. At age 15, she informally changed her name from Margaret Ann to Lionel because she did not like the name she had been given, and as a tomboy, felt that a conventionally male name fitted her better. So that's why she's called Lionel, even though she's a woman. So the mandibles. Yeah, I never heard of it, and it's in the New York Times bestseller list. And not that that means much, but it says, I don't remember the last time a novel held me so enduringly in its grip, New York Times. A lot of reviews, and it was written, I think, 2016. And why do I recommend this book? Well, first of all, because it's entertaining, it's fiction. It's fiction, but it's close to reality. I'm at the section of the book where in 2029, actually the dollar dies. And that's what happens. And that's why I think it's interesting for people to read. And it's about this family, the Mandibles. It's about several generations of the family, and it's very interesting. And it takes part in New York City, around New York City, and other parts of the country, because some parts of the family are in Washington, D.C. So I think it's really interesting for people who live in big cities to see what could happen, even though I haven't finished the book. One of the characters in the book actually has just bought a farm out in upstate New York. But basically talks all about the fact that when the dollar goes, it will be too late if you're not prepared. The author even puts here a quote by Jim Rickards in the beginning here. There you go. And it says, "Collapse is a sudden, involuntary, and chaotic form of simplification." James Rickards, Currency Wars. So, yeah, I read a little bit about the author, and it does say that Shriver identifies as a libertarian. But she does write for the major newspapers, so it's quite interesting. So I'm not going to do a review right now because I haven't finished, but I'm sure most of you would like to read this. I bought it on Amazon. I think they have a Kindle edition. I'm still old school. I prefer the paperback or the hardback. I do have a Kindle app, so I have read stuff on Kindle, but I just wanted to buy the book. So I'll just read a little bit what it says here in the back. It says, "It is 2029, so 10 years from now. The U.S. national debt has grown so enormous that it can never be repaid. The dollar is in meltdown. A bloodless international currency war will wipe out the savings of millions of American families." It's interesting because I was talking about the press conference at the Fed the other day, and that someone asked about the national debt in 2029, the CBO projection. And here's a book about 2029. Does that mean it's going to happen in 2029? No, it could happen tomorrow. It could happen in 2039. Who knows how much longer they can keep the last few percentages of value of the dollar going. Because as we know, since the Federal Reserve was founded in 1913, over 95% of the value of the dollar has been, destroyed. It goes on to say, "Their pending inheritance turned to ash. Each member of the formerly formidable Mandible family must contend first with disappointment, then the challenge of sheer survival as they navigate a society in ruin. A frightening yet scabrously funny look at a nation's not so distant future from the pen of perhaps the most consistently perceptive and topical author of our times, The Mandibles, a Family, 2029-2047, is Lionel Shriver at her incisive best." Well, I'm at the part where actually the dollar actually collapses, and actually the president and the president is like Mexican-born guy, so everything's changed a lot in the U.S., but it's just fiction. And the president comes out to make a statement to the nation. It says that all the U.S. Treasury debt is been defaulted on. He says, "I write off all the debts." And the other thing he does, which could happen, I'm not saying it will happen, is that he gives an order to confiscate all gold, even jewelry. So I'm not sure how successful he will be doing that, because I'm just in the part after the speech he gave. But it was a very important speech. I won't go into it more of the story, or else I'll tell you everything. I really recommend people read this. It's really great. I mean, I couldn't put it down, and I'm gonna read it again today. Hopefully I'll be finished it soon. I want to, it's there's a saying, unputdownable. That's what it is, this book. So highly recommend it. It's The Day the Dollar Died. And it's a good lesson, I think. So anyway, thank you for my viewer for giving that suggestion of that book. I'm sure I'll get a lot more suggestions from different viewers and subscribers. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, share it far and wide, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can also follow me on Steemit, DTube, and on Twitter. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.